themselves with what was required and jumped back into the work. If we take out weekends and federal holidays, that's 132 days that could potentially be subtracted from the 401. So
Potentially, if you could show me how it affected the project. The weekends and federal holidays exist, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it affected the project.
unless they were not out working on weekends and those federal holidays. So I believe that that was probably.
You're missing your star witness, essentially.
We are.
Why are they not here?
I cannot answer that, Your Honor. And
He said he was going to be here. I saw him in the paper, in the parking lot when we there's Ed, right there.
Ed's here.
He's a star witness.
Ed, come on up.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't know Ed was here.
That's helpful.
All right. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to give you, after I've explained to you what I want, I'm going to let you go out in the hall. I'm going to take the other case, and then we'll resume this one.
Okay.
So that you're fully prepared, okay? Because obviously you didn't get a chance to talk to him before the hearing, and I want, like I've said, this is what I want. I need to be able to subtract days, and just the fact that it was Flag Day doesn't mean that it affected the project, okay?
Understood.
All right. See you in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. In the meantime, because like a radio station, dead air is not a good thing, we're going to take the second case on the agenda, and then when we're done with the second case, we'll resume with the first case. Ms. Herstein, is that okay with you?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. Property owner Vivek K.
Agrawal.
Agrawal. You think that I would practice before I came here. I apologize. Address 2804 South Atlantic Avenue, Daytona Beach Shores, Florida. Case CDEF 2024-31. Is there anybody here representing the property owner? No. Okay. Ms. Herstein, you've been previously sworn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd first like to ask that each of the documents included in this PowerPoint file, whether presented during the hearing or not by the city for this case, be accepted as evidence, most of which have been provided to the special magistrate, all but the pictures, and all of which I'm about to show, and all of which have been provided to the respondent or their rep. Actually, that is not the case. Many of which have been provided to the respondents through mailings, but with the respondent not present today.
Well, if somebody opts not to come to the hearing, they don't get to object. So the evidence, or the packet is accepted into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This is not the same complex that we had the trash can case before.
It is not.
Okay, I want to make sure, but without the pictures, I didn't remember the address of the last trash can.
Understood. No, this is a single-family residence.
Okay?
This is an initial violation or an initial hearing for a case that started after a complaint regarding high weeds that were encroaching onto an adjoining property, and you can see some of those in the lower picture right there. That actually was rectified, so of the original 9 violations, the weed violation was rectified and only 8 are still part of this case. So September 25th, 2024, Officer Lori McLaughlin, code enforcement officer at the time, and I both inspected the property, took pictures, and issued a notice of violation. It was returned, so November 1st, good service was achieved with posting and also sending it by first-class mail. April 3rd, reinspection took place. The weeds were still trimmed down, and the other 8 violations remained. So on April 7th, a statement of violation, request for hearing, and notice of hearing were sent and posted. Good service was achieved through posting with the support of the mailings. A search of our permitting system record showed that the last permit obtained for this property was in 2020 under a previous owner, and no permits are pending at this time for the property. The current property owner purchased this property in late 2022 and owns other property in our city, I believe 3, but might be 4. I would like to show you pictures and list each of the violations as we do that, and then I have a request at the end.
Okay.
Violation A and B are both on this slide. The trash or recyclable container not screened from view from abutting streets. Again, it's fairly well back, but it's not screened from view. It doesn't have an enclosure around the toter. And violation B, trash recyclable container either out earlier than 5 p.m. Monday, the day before containers are emptied, or have been left out later than 9 p.m. Tuesday, the day that containers are emptied. So you can see the initial picture at the top left. The toter is in with a bunch of debris, and in the bottom right, the toter is off by itself, still visible from the right-of-way, which is Ridge Road behind it.
Okay.
Violation C, exterior walls of the property have holes that can admit dampness to interior walls, and that's primarily on the west side of the home. You can see in the upper left, further away example of some of these holes in the outer boards of the home. And in the bottom right picture, the April 3rd, 2025 re-inspection picture shows it looking exactly the same. They have not rectified that, nor have they initiated permits to do it. Violation D, siding material and paint are discolored at various locations on the building. Again, I have the earlier picture on the top left, and then the same portion of that, but blown up a little bit more for you on the bottom right, as it has actually gotten a little bit worse in those months. Violation D, this is the same violation, but with a couple other areas. You can see at the top left the discoloration around a portion of the eave that faces A1A, and then you can see that same picture just to its right, that it hasn't changed, and it's in a little bit more detail on the close-up. And you can see a lot of, I started putting bubbles around the different places, but one bubble just kept getting bigger and bigger because there's discoloration and deteriorated paint basically everywhere, everywhere in this view, and others. Violation E, unpainted wood with dampness at the rear of the building. So basically, again, on this side of the building are the majority of these issues. The east side, the east-facing side of the home has been, it appears to be better cared for. Again, top left is the initial picture. Just below it is the re-inspect picture taken in April, looking almost identical. And then a close-up of one of those areas. Actually, it's even a different area than the ones on the left, showing how the wood is actually deteriorating. And if you go just below where the roof line starts, you can see one of the boards is starting to pull apart. Violation F, various items of debris, including a tire, refrigerator, wooden pallets, metal railings, concrete pavers, and buckets are in view at various locations on the property. This is the main location, but there are others. They have debris tucked under, all on the west face of the home, but not, I haven't seen any that are visible from the east face that you can see from South Atlanta.
Is there a renovation project going on?
I found out yesterday that there is a stop work order for some work that had begun on the property, including window replacements. So rather than stop this and start again, we decided to move forward with this. And also, while hopefully we're talking about the issues and they're going to need permits to rectify many of these issues, we can also remind them about the other permits they need at the time, and hopefully they can encapsulate all of the items. If not, if we don't hear from them very soon, then we'll need to send a second notice of violation to cover the stop work order work that had been identified as having been done without permits.
This is the first appliance we've seen sitting in a yard since I've been sitting in this chair. It's just really unusual for the Shores that you have a situation like this.
It is, and even further so that we didn't get a complaint about it at any point other than just the weeds were what was at issue, were at issue. So
Maybe once they cut the beads, the refrigerator became visible.
And that was true for other debris on the other side. Once they trimmed back, there were nuisance, a lot of them were nuisance Brazilian peppers. Once they trimmed it back, then there were other things visible. You were absolutely right. So while I don't know if the bucket's still there, it looks like it might be, it's not exactly the same. Some of the items are definitely the same, but then there's some more stuff that's been added. Now there's also that railing that's sort of rusted and kind of laying against the home too, that's visible. And violation G, windows have paint overspray on them at various locations on the building, and it's not every single window, but it's many of them. It looks like they may have covered them with plastic, but that's still there, so it's either an easy fix or a little bit more time-consuming one, but it's still a fix that needs to take place. Garage door is missing paint, and one window at the rear of the building. You've seen this already in the pictures, but yeah, it's pretty unsightly, and it's not giving them an excellent building envelope for sure. I think I would like to call Mr. Edmonds to the stand, just in case there are any other questions, possibly about some of the other things going on in the property, or just these.
Okay, Mr. Edmonds, I know you is sworn.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Mind putting on the record, for this particular case, your name, your position with the city, how long you've been with the city?
Steve Edmonds, City Daytona Beach Shores building official, and I've been here over 21 years.
Thank you, Steve. And are the facts as they've been described consistent with your understanding of the facts of the case?
Yes, they are.
And is there anything further that you'd like to add, or that you need to correct, or that you'd like to add to help?
Just, you asked about if they were doing a remodel, and yes, they are doing a remodel. They have put new windows, new doors. They've added some walls inside the house as well. They've done a lot of interior framing, and that's why we put the stop work order on that.
Because it was not being permitted?
Right, none of it was permitted. It's a typical for, unfortunately, every one of his properties that he has in the shores.
Okay.
I think every one of them have a current stop work order on. This one was lived in by his maintenance people that were doing a lot of the work for him.
I see. All right. I fully understand what's going on here. You know, it's probably a cost-cutting move not to pull the permit. He got caught, and, okay. And you're asking for an order number 7?
Order number 7, $200 per day if all fines aren't rectified, for 8 violations on or before September 17th, 2025, which is actually approximately 5 months. And that's mainly because there's a lot of siding that is rotten and deteriorated. It's going to need to come off. It's not just a simple paint and remove debris. They need to pull permits, and they're going to have to replace some of these things. And we hope that during that same process, we can also convince them to pull the other permits that they have the stop work order for. So I did give them, I went back and forth, but I gave them an extra month in order to hopefully facilitate that. If not, I'll bring this up again if we come for a different initial hearing.
I was wondering why you gave them so long, because none of this is structural or, well, it possibly could, but it looks like, honestly, a long weekend. You could get rid of most of this.
The problem is to fix the siding. I think this is your permit to fix the siding, because the siding was taken off to put the door in, so I have to have the door permitted as well as the siding when I do it. Or I'd be allowing you to go around some of the inspections that they need for the door.
Okay. And for administrative costs?
For administrative costs, we're asking for $149.09, and there is an affidavit in this packet.
Okay. All right. Find that there is a violation, issue order number 7. All violations need to be rectified by September 17th, 2025, or $200 a day will accrue. Order $149.09 to be paid for administrative fees within 30 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Was that slow enough?
That's fine.
Okay. All right. And we have nothing else except for the first hearing, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Ms. Wagner, are you ready? Okay. Please continue.
We've got Kyle Canfield and Ed Hamby from GC Contracting who will be able to speak to the crews and some of the further reasons for delay.
Okay. And who are you going to call first?
Let's start with Ed Hamby.
Okay.
Ed what?
Hamby, Hamby.
Okay. Mr. Hamby, please raise your right hand.
What's that now?
Raise your right hand. I'm going to swear you in, sir. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Please proceed.
Sure. So, Mr. Hamby, when we were in the hall, we were discussing the fact that your crews do not work on weekends or federal holidays. Is
Right.
that correct?
That's correct.
And that's because you can't get people to come out and
Well,
work.
we have enough trouble getting people to come work 5 days a week.
Okay.
Once in a while, we get them on weekends, but then you have to pay premium, and most people don't want to pay the premium rate for Saturday and Sunday. We do the same thing on Monday. Plus, you can't get, none of the suppliers open on the weekends, other than like Home Depot, but we buy our lumber from a true lumber yard, we buy our doors from a door factory, so.
All right.
Okay.
And we're at their mercy, like the fire door in the stairwell, takes 46 weeks to get. The doors, the double doors on the back of the storage room, takes 46 weeks to get those because they're steel doors, fire-rated doors, special. So those all take 46 weeks, not like going to Home Depot and picking up a door.
Why is it not like going to Home Depot and picking out a door? I would assume that if somebody sells doors,
No.
that they would have some sort of door in stock, or is
Not
this a
rated.
custom size?
No, these are rated doors, have to be fire-rated doors.
Right?
Specialty door. And you would think that, Miami, I'm from Miami, we go pick up everything needed. But up here, there's stuff, and nobody stocks anything. I ordered a couple door clothes for a job about 4 weeks ago. We used to be able to just go pick them up. Nobody has them. Nobody stocks the material anymore.
Why? If you know.
It's crazy. It's the most unbelievable thing you ever seen. Nobody stocks anything. If they have it, get it. I've been ordering steel. I can't even get the price back from the steel. One of our local vendors out of Jacksonville. I called him again this morning. Supposed to have his price last Thursday. Still haven't got it. But
Okay.
he's the best one out there. But with the doors are stairwell doors, have to be fire-rated. Fire-rated doors, fire-rated jams. In the storage room, that was even more specialty. Stairwell doors have to be fire-rated. Fire-rated doors, fire-rated jams. In the storage room, that was even more specialty.